All right. So the first thing we'll talk about, aside from the great collaboration, is we did something a little interesting, a little fun from 2 weeks ago. Again, last week we were off due to just bad internet and me being on the road. And in this conversation, what we're going to be doing is kind of talking about homework. Like I gave the people who joined the group last week or 2 weeks ago homework, and a few people participated. So we'll kind of go through that and the methodology behind why people pick what they picked. Again, there is no wrong answer here. In 18 years of working in the insurance industry, I've not once had the same type of design for a person. So we're going to kind of dive in and first take a look at the problem or the idea, and then I'll show you some answers that I got. And then we'll kind of talk about a methodology that you can think about in the context, and then we'll run the illustrations as well. So, what I would encourage you guys is a couple things. One, think of questions you may have about the scenarios here, but also think about other questions you may have because once we're done with this, then we'll move into open dialogue and conversation that people may have. So, again, this back to basics is free flowing, the opportunity for anyone to have questions or conversation. And then tomorrow, Thursday at 4 o'clock Central, we're going to be doing a more formal and regulated presentation about using life insurance as an asset class. So,
Phil, can
again,
you enlarge that?
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Is that better? Can you see that better, Laverne?
I can. Thank you.
No problem. Anything for my favorite Laverne of all time. Um,
You're so kind.
so yeah, this was the homework. And what we did is we played off just a conversation. I have a client, we'll call him Phil, because why not? Date of birth 8/12/81, preferred non-tobacco risk class has the following. Current salary of 150K, has a wife, 42 years old, also works with a salary of 50K, and they got two kids, 5 and 8. Currently has a retirement plan. He's putting away about 20K a year, almost max funding it. And into that plan, he's been doing so for about 5 years. The company matches about 5% of what he puts in, and that's the only retirement plan they have. Family does not have any life insurance at all. They have an expendable income of about 3,000 a month. So there's a lot of tee ups, tie-ins, and some hidden things that I figured would be worth having a conversation around because again, we are in this multi-carrier environment, multi-carrier world. Can some carriers make more sense versus others? So let's kind of think first and foremost, and I'll kind of open it up to everybody. What kind of stuff is missing from this that you think would be worth asking the question to the customer? Again, no wrong answers, but I figure it's better than me just talking the whole time.
um, Questions about possible debt that they may have to cover.
Yep. So some current debts. So yeah, more um like a financial needs analysis, if you will, right?
Right.
Yep. So that would be good. Anything else that we're missing aside from my spelling error on detail? I just noticed. Stupid spell check. Well, here's
Hmm.
one. Oh, go ahead, Laverne.
Well, I actually was thinking about his retirement. He's doing 20 grand a year.
Hmm.
He's been doing it for 5 years.
Hmm.
He's got a match of 5%. I guess I'd want to know a little bit more about that retirement too.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't see that the wife has anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, that's about all I can think of right now.
Yep. I think you're on the right track. What I would probably ask them is, how do you feel about your retirement? Has anyone told you about alternative options or different ideas in which you can utilize funds? Like, if you could put more away, would you? And the question right there is, they have expendable income of 3K a month. So we already know the answer is yes, but to what extent? So, some questions that I would probably ask, so we'll kind of put them below here. So questions to ask, emergency fund. Tia asked if there was any outstanding debts. So that could be anything like car, credit card, you know, um, daycare, stuff like that. That's a big debt when you got kids who are younger. Ugh, hated those days. And then we talked about the current, retirement. Are you happy with what you're doing? So those would be questions I would have right out of the gate. I would also say date of birth for Mrs. Phil. Uh, I would also say any health concerns. Also, the kids are 5 and 8, so what's your plans for the kids in college? So, right off the bat, when you think about this, and again, we have 3 people participate, and again, there's no wrong answer, but these would be additional questions that could lead to a different type of result based on the information given, right? So you would see that, do they have an emergency fund? Maybe when you have an emergency fund, you need about 6 months worth of income to supplement. So are they taking home 150 and 50? The expendable income after all bills is 3,000. So do they have what's the current, liabilities per month, right?
Maybe home loan can be a question.
Yeah, what's up?
They have a property and they have a home loan.
Yep, like mortgage,
Yeah.
costs, insurance, things like that. So those are all part of the expendable income or what they have left over. But yeah, it's always a good question, especially if you're doing the needs analysis for the next step, which would be finding the need. So what we're doing here though is trying to understand that you have different scenarios and different opportunities that you have to look at, and everyone's going to think differently. So these are all great questions that would be part of your conversation with people. Now, a lot of times you'll have people who will just be like, "Well, just tell me what you think." And I always say to people, I'm like, just telling you what I think just means that you're in a situation where if you don't like it, you're just going to say, no, I'd rather figure out like a doctor does. They ask a ton of questions, and from there, you figure out the response and what's needed, not just simply throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. So, what I would say is I'll show you some of the answers that we had. And, again, there's nothing wrong with any of these answers. They're just all different. So, first one, Phil sticks with a 20K each year, 5% employer match. His 401K could grow to about a million plus, which could be correct. Yeah, absolutely. Because, this Phil is only, in his early 40s, very young, very young. but he needs protection now. So we have 1.5 million face amount for term, which I would say is accurate to an extent. What do? We look at 10 times the income, and there's 1.5 million face. Wife, 30-year term policy, 500K base amount. So there's that. So you have about, let's just say, rough ballpark, you're looking at about $200, maybe 250 per month just for the protection need. And then you got 500 per month for the IUL. So we're looking at a cash value policy with income later, maybe even on the wife too. And then also distributing some funds to the kiddos, either through putting it in a Roth or a Roth for the wife, 7K per year for that, 529 for the kids. So, and I would say this is good because, this person didn't immediately go with life insurance on the kids too. Okay. Because sometimes in our industry, all we have is two products, hypothetically speaking, and we will try and sell as many products to them with the 3,000, but that might not be the case for everything. So I would say that that's a pretty solid approach to cover the need first, as you see, family protection first, and then the retirement side after. Next option here, pretty detailed. So first sit down with Mr. and Mrs. Phil and do rough math, including income, expenses, and current investments. 150, 50, so 200,000 total per year. Monthly expenses, assuming about 3,000 a month. So 36,000 a year. Phil's contributing 20,000 every year, so 36,000 plus a 20,000, that's 56,000 out of pocket right off the bat. Current income 200 minus the 56, so there's about 144 left. We have two kids. Kids are expensive, as we all know, 150K per kid to go to college, so that's 300K. And rule of thumb, you need 10 times the current income, including education plus monthly expenses. So 144 times by 10, so 1.44 million, 36,000 expenses for same lifestyle, kids in college, so about 2.1 million in total coverage. And saying, Mr. Phil's income is 150,000, employer match only 5% retirement plan, 7,500. I think they missed the boat on that one a little bit, which is okay. So I suggest match same as employer does. So that is another option. So instead of doing, no, that's actually accurate then. So 5%. So I would put in 7,500. They would put in 7,500. And then you can utilize the other 12.5 towards a different investment per se, like life insurance, accumulation, the kiddos with some college expenses as well, and so on and so forth. So, a lot of math in that one. And then we got this one here. So just take the 3,000 a month, drop it into a big ass policy on me. Pardon my French. Sorry, I forgot where I was. And have cash growth with that to kind of build up for some type of retirement plan. So again, everyone has different ideas, and I imagine that if we had additional people put their thoughts into this as well, you'd see however many more very different thought processes. So what I would say is, when I look at things, I look at it from a little bit of a different vision. So for example's sake, you know, there's a couple ways that you can go. So just a thumbs up if you can see the whiteboard, um, as opposed to any text. Okay. So what I would say is that we have to always figure out need first, right? So 10 times income, then you have 1x, I guess you'd say, for mortgage. or what's left. We don't know that number. And then 150K per kid for college protection. So kids don't make it home. What I would usually do is I would take the net of the total for me, so 150,000 plus the mortgage plus the kids. So we have a variable of about 1.8 mil to about, let's just say 250K or so. So we'll just say even number, 2.1 million in need for me. And then, my wife would be, the 150K per kid, plus she also makes 50K, so 50K times 10, 500K, mortgage, we'll say 250. So I would probably say around 1 million for spouse. Why 1 million? Because the spouse actually couple reasons. One, I'll give you a good example. Like me, I didn't even know my kids' doctors' names until this year. So my wife is a non-working spouse. Um, and so even someone like that, I have $1 million for her because I would know nothing about what to do in case she unexpectedly passed. So for someone who's making 50K, but probably is also assuming some other duties as well, I would say $1 million is probably worth it from that standpoint to keep the standard of living and everything else in the house. So we'll just say an even 2 mil for Mr. and about 1 million for Mrs. in the total need. Okay. Now, my train of thought would be first figure out how much term would cost to cover the need. Okay. So we want to talk about protection first. What can we do to protect these people? So we'll look at running the quotes, but we want protection first. If they don't make it home tonight, what's going to happen? And unfortunately, TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that have plagued people's minds from the standpoint of, oh, well, I'll just put money into a life insurance policy and get cash value because nothing's going to happen to me. Well, I have countless stories of stuff happening to people that you always have to kind of remember why you're getting this protection in the first place. So, would $100 in a term policy be more advantageous if someone passed away tomorrow versus $100 into a minimum face max accumulation IUL, which would give you like 50K in face amount? We always have to make sure we balance out the conversation with people so they have perspective. And then also, if they say, no, I really want to do this, that's on them at that point. But, nowhere have you ever heard someone say at a funeral, oh, this is way too much insurance or, money. They always say, I wish I bought more when I could. So we just have to kind of remind people that our products are protection focused. There's a protection inside of it, there's a cost to that protection. But more importantly, we have to make sure that we're taking care of the need first. So assume like we looked at that first option. So we'll just say, husband is around, let's say 250 a month and wife is around 100. So we have about $350 per month in cost, leaving us with roughly, 2650 left to play with, which is expendable income. And I'm sorry if I glitched out. I know there's a thunderstorm going right now, so recap real quick. Costs, assuming 250 for husband, 100 for wife. Let's say it's a 20-year term, and so it's 350 a month. And so I said they have expendable income of 3,000. So 3,000 minus 350, you're looking at about 2,650 in remaining expendable income. So what can you do to help them boost their retirement? Well, there's a few options. So first and foremost, you have the LERP, which is where usually all of us kind of go to, right? Should we take 2650 and put it on a minimum face max accumulation opportunity and then go from there? Possibly. Uh, some of you, or one of you said even so, which I like, is also looking at the Roth IRA. So perks to the Roth, it is just like the LERP. You don't, but you're limited to the amount you can put in, roughly 7K this year. And then once you get over 50, you have that catch-up provision. But these two together, if you split them, 2650, and then you're looking at 7K per person because you can do one on husband and on wife, then you can actually put $14,000 away per year, or roughly, what is that, 1,200 a month ish. So 14,000 divided by 12. So 1160, we'll just say 1160, potentially you could put away per month, for both of them combined, I should say. So those are two options right there, right? Other options that you could allude to is, maybe they want to just put money in the S&P 500. That'd be completely off your wheelhouse, but I think it doesn't hurt to acknowledge that there's other options out there. What does it do? It just lets you become more of an advocate for the conversation. But the reason why I would say, there's that, everyone loves the ups, but what's happening right now? Keeps going down. So if we get in the forefront of it and just offer the solution or the idea that, this can go up, but it can also go down. That's why we always talk about diversification. Because let's say out of this 2650, we said, all right, we're going to put 1,500 towards our solutions and ideas like the LERP. And then you have the Roth as well. So that can help maximize retirement. Or would it make sense to talk about the kids? Do you want to do a 529 alternative, which would be, doing basically a LERP on the kids? That's all it really is. So again, and I apologize if someone in here doesn't know the terminology of LERP, life insurance retirement plan. So if you have this expendable income though, you should kind of explain to them the different options. So the LERP gives you income before 59 and a half, where Roths don't. You're not going to pay taxes on it. If you went into mutual funds instead, you're going to pay taxes every single year. So we talk about asset diversification to get people where they need to be. Is this long-term money or short-term money? Are you going to have a need for it, or is it for retirement? And option two alluded to the fact that you can, drop down 7,500 because you're only getting a company match. So maybe you could put the other, 12,500 directly into the market, and then you have a full 2,650 of expendable income. So it's our job to be the architect of the conversation. It's their job to figure out if they like it or not. So what I'm going to do is first off ask, and I apologize to Chicken Scratch, I'm literally writing like this. So does anyone have questions on this type of methodology or thought process? Nothing? Does this make sense? Thumbs up. This is good stuff.
Phil, one
Makes
question.
sense.
Yeah, go ahead, Shweta.
Why didn't we consider IUL and annuities for this?
Well, it's a great question. What's the LI stand for in the LERP strategy?
Okay. And annuity is also considered in it.
Roth. So I'll show you that here.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And that's why I say, like, the reason why I like doing this is because a lot of us might be just familiar with a few carriers, but again, we're in a multi-carrier environment where there's a lot of different options out there. We're going to stick with a few core carriers just to keep it simple, but understand that we have more available at our fingertips. So those are great questions. And so what I was going to do now is show you a couple things. Okay. So we've got the chicken scratch I mentioned was a LERP and a Roth IRA. So typically with a Roth IRA, a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just put it in a Schwab account, Merrill, whatever. Well, you could do that. Or, Mr. and Mrs. Client, do you want to ever lose money? We have the opportunity to provide to you an option that gives you upside opportunity, no downside risk, and no fees. So that's a big deal for a lot of people because they hate fees. If you put them in a asset managed account, it's usually 1 to 1.25%. And if you have a financial advisor, they're going to take an asset management fee. You'll have sub account fees, load charges. Our annuities don't have any of that. And so if you see here, we're looking at National Life Group, okay? And if I click on the illustrations tab here on their site, and I go into a new illustration, so I'm in Tennessee, and what we're going to look at is flexible premium FP deferred annuities, index annuities. So you'll see fixed index annuity for accumulation. So I'm going to do the fit secure growth. And you'll see the drop down here that says Roth IRA. Okay. And then we'll just go with Phil Resch. And what was it? 08, 12, 1981. So 43. Okay. So in this scenario, the reason why National Life Group is a good option is because they can go as low as $100 a month. Okay. No other carrier will do that because they want 5,000 or 10,000 as the initial premium. So, so the big thing is we have to understand that from this scenario, if your client wants to pay monthly, and let's say, we did 1160, split that in half. So 1160 divided by 2 is about $580 a month. Amount, premium mode, oops. Premium mode, we want to do monthly. And I want to do this from 1 to at 65. Okay. So the age goes there. And in this type of system, so if you see this type of system set up, instead of doing like 1 to 65, you would do 1-A for age. 1 is the year, so 1 to 65. And then I'm a firm proponent of pretty much putting it in the S&P. So the S&P is at 9.5. So I might do that. And then you'll see there's a monthly sum. So it's a 1.9% cap, but it's every month. So it gives you some variation. But if we just look at that, and I'm going to click on Quick View, okay? So I'm putting in 69.60 per year for a total of 23 years. And I'm going to get my hypothetical returns here, some bad years, some not so bad years, some good years, whatever. But you'll see here that I've got an accumulated amount of almost $300,000 of tax-free income. Okay. So for 23 years, we put in, let's just say 7 grand, times by 23 years, that's 161. So we pretty much over doubled our money. The rule of 72, you double your money every 10 years. We've got about 30,000 in the kiddie pool for hubby. And then let's just say it's safe to assume that wife will be about the same. So you have about $600,000 in tax-free income. Okay. So Shweta, to answer your question, we can do annuities. It's going to protect against downside market performance. You're hindered on upside, but it is an option.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
Phil, quick question on this.
Yeah.
This is great information that I'm never aware of. The minimum
Yeah.
5,000 is the least amount I was thinking. That 100 is like, okay, this is like suitable for anybody. So
Exactly.
question is like if someone starts with, hey, I can contribute maybe 3,000 a year, so let's say $300 per month or $400 per month, and maybe some situations they want to downgrade it to 100. So is there any ramifications in a
Yeah.
way like I want to increase next month, decrease this month, or it has to be
Mhm.
and stable?
No, you can do so. The client, so I actually did a policy for one of my old agents. She went to work in a PNC shop instead, but she wanted a Roth IRA. And I told her, I said, listen, I'm not going to make much off of this. Like, you're not going to make much off of 250 a month. It's more of the kindness of your heart, giving them the value and referrals, of course. And I said, you could either go to Schwab and just invest in the S&P, or if you want to do this, we can give you X, Y, and Z. But she started at 250, and then she said to me, Phil, I want to increase it to 500 a month. I said, sure. National Life Group has one of the friendliest consumer portals. So she can literally go on there and update what she wants to, or do a one-time deposit or things like that. So if you want to keep a consistent income stream or a consistent funding, of 100, 200, 300, and then every once in a while add a pop in to get it, like, to say another 3,000 before the year is over, you can definitely do that. So that's not a problem at all. So there is a lot of flexibility with this.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So yeah, it's that's why I say it's like a lot of people don't realize, all the different stuff that you have available. I'm working on a playbook for certain things, so stuff like this I think is just kind of important to understand of what's available at your fingertips and the beauty of being, truly independent. One thing we didn't even talk about, which we talked about a few weeks ago on the Thursday training, was traditional disability. So, 3% of, someone's annual salary would be about the cost of a disability policy. So that's about, 375 bucks a month, or 4,750 a year. So you could even tie in that. Now, what's the benefit for the consumer with disability? The benefit for disability insurance is people statistically are more likely to have a disabling event in their working years versus death. Okay. So when you think about it, we've talked about the phraseology before of if I gave you job A, where it was $100,000, or job B with no, if you get sick or injured, you get nothing. Or job B, 98,600, but you have $60,000 tax free. Which one would you pick? Everyone picks job B because of the benefit. Now, the reason why that's so important to think about is you have, from the producer side, residual income off of disability policies. So every year, every time someone makes a payment, you're getting residual income. So renewals go for the entire duration of the contract, which usually ends at about 65. So a lot of people will build up a book of business off of selling disability plans. The hard part is a lot of people have a hard time seeing the value proposition of disability because it's kind of like car insurance or homeowners insurance. You don't use it, you lose it. But there's certain criteria, certain places that need it more than others. So you think of doctors, dentists, attorneys, CPAs. You could even talk about IT professionals, carpal tunnel. That's a thing. So if they can't do their job anymore, well, guess what? They're going to get tax-free income all the way to 65. So it's a big deal. So even thinking from that, layering this Roth disability, and then we talk about insurance, there's opportunities all across the board. Now, if we look at, for example's sake, I'm going to use my program here. It'll do it a little faster for term. And so for example's sake, let's say, actually, yeah, let's say we'll use Mr. John Smith because I already have a Phil Resch in here. But we had 08/12/1981, and we're going to go Tennessee. Okay, I said preferred non, and we're going to go create from new here. Term insurance, 20 years. I don't do 30 years. Some people do, or 35. The reason why I do 20 is I would rather have the opportunity to have someone convert in my lifetime versus not. But also, statistically speaking, most people don't have their policies last that long anyway. And it's cheaper. So if we went with 2 million for me, and I'm just going to do plain vanilla term. There I am. And so I'm just going to pick, a few carriers here for reference sake. Now you'll see it says John Smith is 44 because of the age nearest, okay? So you're going to go to products and we'll just say select all. So I'll keep it, well, whatever. So I'll hit next. It's just going to start running them all. Oh God, it's running all the selected terms. That was a mistake. Yeah, whatever. So it's running all the carriers and all the different term platforms and products. Yeah, I did way too many. Let me just go back. That's gonna drive me nuts. Get rid of that. Keep that. Section term, vitality term. No, I'm not gonna do that. Mass Mutual, Omaha, Nationwide, North American. Yeah, don't want that. Picking the term products we have. So, let's see. And I'll clean it up a little bit. So what we want to see is the cost. I did forget to change it to monthly. So monthly. And the reason why we want to look at a lot of carriers from this standpoint, even with the term insurance, is you'll see the monthly premium here. So Transamerica, Corebridge, Banner. The reason why Transamerica is number one is because I'm 44, or John Smith is 44 here. Transamerica is an age last company, so it's cheaper than Corebridge because it's going to show 43 versus Corebridge at 44. But if you'll notice, the cost is not that big of a difference. between them, you'll see you're fighting over pennies. If we did the QOL flex term, I would say it's probably going to be around that $200 a month. So even though in my estimate, I was just spitballing it, I said 250 for me, already I have less here that I have to fund for term insurance. So the next step would be figuring out if we did in my scenario here, we did a total of 6960 or 580 a month in the Roth. We've got expenditures for the term. Let's now say 200. So we have 580 plus 200. I'll just say 100 for the misses. And so now you're up to, well, sorry, it's 1160 for the two of them together, plus 200, 300. So you're up to about $1,500 out of the 2650. So if we went conservative and just did say $500 a month on each of them, then what we can do is I like to pick really just a couple carriers. So like I'll go to WinFlex, and I saw some of you ran it, uh, you know, the way you ran it. I'll put it that way. So we'll kind of go through here and just kind of pick. Like I said before, I like the QOL product for living benefits, and like Symetra for no living benefits. Just varies per client, and so I like to substantiate it with a bunch of different quotes, like I showed you before for term. But when it comes to permanent, a lot of times when I run these, the lead dogs are usually Corebridge and Symetra. So I'll do the QOL max accumulator, create client, Phil Resch, and it was 08 112 1981 44, and preferred Tennessee. And so we have about $500 to play with each husband and wife. So in this scenario, the carrier, I'll zoom in, the carrier does a blanket empty canvas. This is like my whiteboard before I started painting on it, okay? It's an empty canvas. There's nothing to these words. It's just they're giving you a starting point of 0. So when you are doing a life insurance retirement plan versus death benefit, you're focusing on, the premium, you don't care about the death benefit, you want the least amount. So we're solving for the face amount. So you see here, solve for, we do face amount. Okay. Now the second tab down here, you'll see options. Solve means I'm looking for the least amount of premium, or the face amount for $9,000 a year to get me to 105. So what we want to do is we want to do the least amount of face amount, double click here and change this to $500 because that's what I can do per month. And I am 44 in this example. So let's just say we're going to fund this for 20 years and then double click here and do nothing after that. Okay. So it's $500 a month. We have to go over to policy options. Never forget, change it to monthly. And then you'll also see that we are doing 20 years of funding. We want to do an increasing option only for those 20 years. Once we're done putting income funding into the policy, you want to levelize it to reduce your costs of insurance. So we have the solve for, we've got the policy options monthly, increasing for the 20 years, and then level after. And then I've said this several times, I'll say it again. You want to diversify the indexes. So I do 2020 and 60 or 33, 33, 34. Depends on what you feel is right for you. Doesn't matter, but just diversify the indexes to make sure you're not all caught in one index strategy. And then we'll show disbursements of what type of income we could pull out. I'm going to click on the calendar. I'm going to change this to age. So we don't want to take any income out until 65 to, let's say, about 89. So it's about 25 years of income. Okay. So 0, then you click off, and then this will pop up. It'll say to max. You just double click it and change it to the number you want. And then solve for max. I just double clicked, drop down, solve for max, and voila. I'm technically done. If I wanted to do the same for my wife, I could just copy, just say Mrs. Resch, change it to female. We said she was 42, preferred. And then all the properties have pretty much stayed in here. The only thing I have to change is this because she's younger. So I'm going to say 64, nothing, into 89, but everything else stayed the same. Okay. So if we go back here for 1 second, though, sorry, not here. If we go back here, I did ask for her date of birth, right? Because if I took, for example's sake, me with this at 8/12/81, now I'll be honest, everyone sent me AIG back. Okay. Could it be my bias? I hope not. But if, for example's sake, I just did a copy here and I went to, let's say, North American and did their builder plus 4, update client. Now you'll see here I'm 43. Okay, because it's an age last company, not an age nearest. So could you save on costs of insurance by showing a North American policy as well? We don't know about my wife because we said she's just 42. So that's one of those little secret things that I was telling you about is you have to understand some of the tricks of the trade. And they put their high fidelity, that is a terrible index. So I'm going to do 50 there, and I'm going to do the monthly point to point. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do Russell. So we have 2 different indexes. Disbursements, we got to change this. So right here, we're going to say at age 65 to age 89. And now this should all be accurate. Okay, now I'm just going to select all over here and just hit calculate from this side. Actually, hold on, because North American always needs an agent license number. Now hit calculate. It'll run all 3 at the same time. So we'll just see how much of a factor this 44 to 43 is, because that could dictate which way you want to go with your customer. Now, living benefit wise, the QOL product has a different story for living benefits versus North American. So once again, that also depends on what the client values more. You can get a higher payout potentially on the critical illness with QOL versus North American. You also start out with a higher death benefit. So let's just see, from the income perspective. Okay, scroll down. You'll see 500. Target premium on this is $2,000. So that would be your compensation indicator. And then we have 6,000. And then going down to, we put in a total of 120. And let's just say you're pulling out, we're close enough to 20,000. So $20,000 times by 25 years. So that's 120,000 investment with a $500,000 of tax-free income return over a 25-year period. Did it make sense in how I ran that? Does anyone have any questions on how I ran the illustration? All right. I'm going to assume you're all pros. But now let's see what North American does with 6,000. They have a lower DB and a younger age, so it should be it should be more income. So let's go down to, I call it the money pages. So 6,000 target premium on this is 1994, so a little less than Corebridge, and you're at 23,580. So the lower age could give you a higher return. Now, what you'll also see here is they're averaging 6.6. You can always reduce the illustration rates to say 6%, so you can be completely transparent. You'll see like some carriers like F&G will go to like number one and then drop dramatically because they show a higher illustration rate than everyone else. So, not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's different. So you'll see here that they're giving 23,580 for that time period. And so the 120 investment gives you about 589,500. So about an additional $90,000 more than what Corebridge would give, mainly because the younger age and the cost of insurance from that standpoint, less face amount too. So it never hurts to check a couple carriers. If I were to then take this example and then go over to Symetra, which has no living benefits or very minimal, they're a Ascent product. If I hit update client, and I'm just going to scrub this real quick. I'm not going to put money in that. I'm going to do the core and the NASDAQ. Making sure this is all kosher. Age 65 to 89. Increasing the level. So that's all accurate. So hit calculate for that. And so again, hypothetically speaking, Symetra should show higher income than the other two because of the fact that they don't have really living benefits on their product. They have terminal and they have a form of a chronic illness rider on this, but no critical. The minimum face amount for preferred is 100,000 though, so that might actually hurt the return more than help it. Someone could go lower, but they'd have to go with standard non-tobacco versus preferred, and that hurt it. So you'll see here, it's only 17,858. So different strokes for different folks. Usually you'll find like some of the tricks would be figuring out date of birth versus age, because that'll give you potentially different carriers that will be the lead dog when you're talking to your clients. And then also health risks or ailments. So I can't stress this enough. Understanding your client, understanding their health situation before you get started is a huge important factor. Because if, let's say, for example's sake, I'll pick on Jay. Jay's got the body of an Olympian, right? Skinny dude, easily gets preferred plus, no problem. Then you got me, who's at the other end of the spectrum. I'd probably say Corebridge for Jay, but Columbus for me because they have a table shape program for C, B, and A up to standard. So I could get an IUL at standard with Columbus. Comparatively speaking, I would get a table C, maybe even a table D with Corebridge. So there's going to be cost of insurance fluctuation between health risks too. That's why again having this independent model, an opportunity for several carriers is going to be very advantageous for everybody. So we kind of went through the homework. That was an hour. And I kind of plowed through some of these LERP illustrations. Does anyone have any questions? And it can be on anything. Okay. It doesn't have to be this, but I also want to just make sure, does this make sense? Does everyone, thumbs up if this makes sense? Jay, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I have a question, not on the IUL, the earlier, the Roth IRA stuff from the North NLG.
Yeah.
So does that product also accepts any rollover? Let's say if somebody accumulated 35,000 in last 5 years,
Hmm.
that
Yep.
still works? Okay.
And that would be for any carrier too, though. So, like American Equity, American Equity has a flexible product as well. They have more funding options than what National Life Group has. So, what I would say is if you have more that you can put in from the rollover standpoint, we have more options.
Yeah,
Okay.
but do we
So,
do we have any lock-in, 10 year, 7 year?
American National or Anaco has that for the participation rates. They have a 7 and 10 year lock, so the par rates or cap rates won't go down. So there is a carrier that has that, but if you're talking like a point to point rate lock, no.
I mean,
Um,
basically, let's say if I do a 1035 exchange now and start with NLG, 3 years down the line, can I move it to a different carrier? How
You
many years?
can, I was gonna say you can, but you're gonna have surrender charges.
Okay.
So yeah, so the consideration for that would be um maybe you do a 5 year annuity and then move it to another annuity at that point. Obviously, the comps are worse for us, but again, client first, from that standpoint versus a 10 year.
Right.
So yeah. But the happy medium would be 7 year, but still, again, if someone is looking to possibly move it, like for me, so I'm 43 right now. If I were to do an annuity, I would probably do like a 7 year annuity for accumulation, and then at 50 get a income annuity. So I want to make sure that I can get to that income roll-up feature sooner than later, so then I can get the guaranteed income, to protect my retirement.
Okay.
Phil,
So
a follow-up question on that. If somebody
yeah.
does a rollover and then wanted to contribute on a monthly or yearly basis, can they do it?
Yes. Yeah, you would look for a flexible premium deferred annuity. So with National Life Group, they have the Fit Growth, which is a flexible premium. The Asset Shield from American Equity is also a flexible premium. So those are two right off the top. There's several others. Athene is not one of them. They are a one and done carrier. So but there are other ones out there that you can definitely do flexible premium. Um, Annuities are very difficult in my opinion because, if you were just a solely independent person trying to get, annuity quotes and things like that, we can do through Three Mark. They do have a product here. Like I click on annuities, and if I click on Luma, they have this software that can help with multi-carrier. So running different things like an income comparison, they can do that. When it comes to accumulation, I don't think they do a good enough job. So what I did was I invested in software called Annuities Genius. This program that you see here is about 250 a month, but I can give it to you guys for 165 a month because I already bought seats, so to speak. But if I were to say take a client and I'll show someone who's younger, like I think there was a Phil Resch in here back in the day. Um, and I am not 65, but I'll edit myself here. Edit. We'll just say again, I'm 43 right now, and I have 200,000 to invest in an IRA. So I'll update this client. Now, the cool thing about this software is if I wanted to go to my dashboard, so I'm here, 200,000 in IRA, I can do this navigator, and what'll happen is I can then build out a profile for myself. So I can't do lifetime income yet. I'm too young, but I can do accumulation. And you'll see two options. So protected market exposure, that is your fixed index annuities. Guaranteed growth rates is like your MYGAs. Okay, so we want to do the protected market. And then there's the amount that I want to invest. See this, add future contributions. So it will only show me carriers that have future contribution opportunities. I don't like fees in my index annuities, personally speaking. I don't think they give you a good enough value proposition. I don't have plans to touch the funds, so even though they say, ability to withdraw 10%, because I'm too young, I don't have the ability or desire to get hit with a penalty. So I want to have 100% access after 10 years. Next step. This is a fun question because in our industry, once again, you have carriers who are giving quote unquote innovative indexes to show higher performance. So I don't like that. I like just sticking with the tried and true S&P, NASDAQ, Russell. So I'm very bland and A-rated or higher. And then what it's going to do is it's going to calculate, sorry, it's supposed to calculate all the available opportunities for me to look at for myself in this scenario for an accumulation product. And so it's giving me three different options here. You'll see Lincoln is one of them. They have a participation rate on their S&P at 62%. So if I had a 10% return for the S&P point to point, I'm going to get 6.2% credit. So if the S&P did what it did like last year, and there were some times where I had a point to point in my IUL that was 22%, but at 11.5%, cap. So if I had 62% at 22%, that's obviously more than 11.5. So these are three carriers. Doesn't mean these are the end all be all. I can explore all options and I can make adjustments. But the reason why I like this is it shows an actual 10-year historical. So when you use companies that have S&P, you can actually see a true historical. Like I can click live only and none of this changes because it's all accurate. If I did that with the innovative indexes, there are some that aren't even 5 years old. So you wouldn't see a 10, 15, and 20-year look back. You would just see 10-year. So there's a lot of benefit to doing this, but then you really want to kind of dive in and see, is Lincoln the place you want to go? Protective, American Equity is here. All of these, you can add money to them. So again, that was one of the provisions I said is I want to put more money into it. And I can literally click on the annuity info here and see some of the options. So accounts, what type of accounts are there? There's BlackRock, S&P. You've got, they just came out with some new options too. I'm a big fan of these triggers. So maybe not at 4.75, but here they are. So there's another trigger, 7.5. So if there's any performance at all, you're gonna get a 7.5% credit. That's why I like triggers. But these are some of the options that you can pick with the carrier. They have brochures, and you can even run illustrations. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can see from here. I could play around with the different types of options if I don't care about rider fees, if I don't care about account fees or spreads. If I want to add premium bonuses and I click yes, then it limits the amount of carriers. I don't personally like bonuses because they hinder the participation rates. And I want growth. I don't want a bonus. Bonuses are usually given to help you overcome surrender charges. So, but I would, if you're big on annuities, I would recommend considering this. Like I said, about 165 a month, and you'll get this Cadillac version that has all the carriers you need, and it also has a CRM system, so you can put it on your website if you have a website, and ultimately, get some leads off of that too. So I'll leave that as a thought, but we start talking more annuities, and yes, you have options with other carriers. But when it comes to accumulation, I use this versus Luma, which is free on the 3Mark site. So hopefully that answered your question. I don't know if I went far down the rabbit hole. Sometimes I do, and I apologize.
No, well, thanks. That helps.
No problem.
Maybe a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Possible that a person can have vanity from two different companies, maybe one as a rollover and other as a monthly contribution in the same
You
product?
You can definitely do that. So if I went back and I did like one time only, you'll see different
Mhm.
options. And then if you wanted to do like again, if you're going to do monthly, National Life Group would be the way to go because you can only
Mhm.
do, as low as $100 a month. But that's the one that you don't need to have a lump sum of 5K or higher. So you can absolutely do that and diversify your carriers too.
Okay.
So great question. Anything else? All right. Well, what I'll say is the way I started is the way I'll end. TGCconference.com. The link is in the chat session. Please, if you haven't signed up yet, 13 days and it's going up, or 12 days, 19 plus 12, 12 days, and it's going to go up to $100 versus 25. I promise you, you'll get value out of this. We even feed you lunch and breakfast on the second day. Um, so definitely worth it. If you want to talk to me about it, feel free to. But everything is here about what we have to offer and the benefits for you. Great speakers all across the board. And I am going to try and show off because my dad is coming. I want him to be proud, all that stuff. But um, all great people. Carson Porter is going to talk about how to make $1 million premium ticket sale. Lindsay's our RIA, so if you want to talk about how to partner with RIAs, she's going to be a great resource for that. Judy Hoberman, acclaimed author of Selling with a Skirt. So, how to be successful as a woman in the life insurance and financial services industry. And for us chauvinist men who say, why would I care about that? Women are going to control more money than men in about 5, 10 years anyway. So understand this is important for both genders to hear this type of topic. So just a lot of great stuff for the event. Again, if you haven't registered, we do it ASAP. It's only $25 and the juice is worth the squeeze. I'll put it that way. So with that, I'll say goodnight. Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow for our 4 o'clock central training on life insurance as an asset. And if you didn't see the beginning of this will be up on the YouTube at Valor Financial, probably within the next couple hours. So have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, Phil. Have a great night.
Bye.